Amateur hour, it's his first time producing. Oh yeah, that's why it's amateur hour. He doesn't know what he's doing. Oh yeah, it's amateur hour.
Welcome to Amateur Hour, where a former film school dropout sets out to be a future filmmaker. I'm your host, Rob Jarasinski, and joining me today is our location scout, me. Yeah, that's right. You don't get a lot of frills when you're making an independent movie. And one of those frills would be a location scout. Very useful because films usually take place in locations. So to set out to do that, the reason this episode was inspired, I was hoping to be able to do some casting announcements with this episode. However, it's a bit more of a process with different layers. But hoping we can make some casting announcements soon. If you go out to our IMDb page right now, you can see at least one cast member that we're very excited about. But I'll talk more about him and the rest of our cast once we have the full list out there, or the majority of the list out there. I believe we're casting 23 individuals, both local and non-local actors. And yeah, it's a bit of a process. But it's its own thing. When the time is right, once everybody's locked down, we will have an entire casting discussion, possibly maybe even bring on some of the cast to talk about why they decided they wanted to be part of the movie. But this particular segment or episode will be dedicated specifically to locations, the places where the films take place. And I think it's timely, because I just got back this past Saturday, back from my third trip now to Ohio to visit Parker. And it's funny, for this last visit, I think I was like trying to figure out, wait, why am I going again? Like, we were trying to force things to do and an agenda of things to do. But you know what's funny is every time I've gone, there's some magic that happens. And this past trip was also, or notwithstanding, we definitely had some magic happen and some coincidence and fate. And I think I've talked a lot about fate during these episodes, kind of driving things forward. Certainly happening in with this trip. But let's break down locations for a moment, okay? A script is written, takes place for a number of reasons. As written, things can work. The director or the writer has a vision of where these things will take place. Because Parker is Ohio-based and kind of had the budget in mind and had Ohio in mind, certain aspects of it were thought through to fit Ohio's the options. Obviously there are no desert scenes, because that wouldn't make a whole lot of sense from an expense perspective. We're not George Lucas flying to I don't know where George filmed Star Wars scenes. But yeah, we're trying to keep things local for a number of reasons. There's also the tax rebate aspect. Shooting locally is cool, and it helps promote the economy. Like, I am now an official Ohioan, a Buckeye, which I found out is a tree. I thought it was a bean. I think it's both. Maybe I don't know. Someone needs to research that. But so we knew that the scope of where we were looking was going to be Ohio, which is helpful because that narrows the scope down. And for those who have been listening, know that the film takes place in 5 segments. One of the segments is a through line, so let's put that one on hold for a moment. But there are some unique locations to that. I'm going to go in order of the segments, and I don't want to spoil the film. So I was very cautious too, checking in with Parker before I came down here to record. What can I talk about without spoiling? So I'm going to start with our first segment location. And actually, it's great that I'm starting with that location, because it's the one I had the least amount of interest in, because it's going to be using Parker's family owned property or family house. And I don't know, something about that. I kind of just threw it away in my mind of like, well, I'm sure it's fine. Like, I'd seen it in the shorts. If you go out and watch Parker's shorts, it's very beautiful. But yeah, for whatever reason, I was more excited about all of the other locations, which we'll get to, and you'll understand why. But yeah, I got a chance. Parker's been wanting me to go visit the property, and I was resistant just because I was like, I've seen a cottage house like on a pond. Like I've seen those kind of things before. It's like, what are we going to do out there? And went out there this past Saturday, and jaw is still on the floor. Parker undersold what their property is. All I can say is it's in southeastern Ohio, and it's incredible. It's incredible. And nobody thinks it's probably more incredible than me, except for maybe Parker's dad, who, as it was passed down to through Parker's family, it's not his dad's side of the family who inherited it. It is his mom's side. And yet it's his dad who's like the most gung-ho about the property, knows like the history of everything. But when driving in, very rural, and then you make this last turn, and then the lake, this beautiful lily pad filled lake opens up. It looks, and I sent messages to some of our creative team saying like it was like pulling into Camp Crystal Lake. There's even like a dock, like from Friday the 13th. So really sprawling property, beautiful cottage that is, still has remnants of its history. I think it was built, obviously built by hand, but built by great grandfather. So rustic, but modern rustic. It has infrastructure updates to it. It felt very cozy. It had like a cottage smell to it that I really like. It's not like a musty smell, but anyway, the smell aside, visually super stunning. And we're going to exploit some of those visuals in a way that Parker, from a resource constraint perspective in the shorts, was not able to. I want to give this place scale. So we're going to make some investments on the visuals to make sure the scale happens. And then we just drove, for those who are following us on social media, you got a glimpse of it. I have a video of Parker and I on Parker's four-wheeler just driving around and stuff like that. So you get a little bit of a sense of it there. But that one's easy, right? That's it's who you know. That one's easy to take care of. Not going to cost us anything, so that's a plus as well too. But now, from my least exciting location to one of my most exciting locations, it made that jump just by being there, and I'm so excited in late August, to be able to go back out there and shoot, because now I have no least favorite. Like every single location is my favorite location. Actually, that's not true. There's still one that's way up there. And we'll get to it last, accordingly. Save the best, not the best. They're all the best. But this one is, the last one is particularly unique. Again, I don't know. All of them are unique, but let's move on to the second location. And how do we find places now? Because we've leveraged all the goodwill. Not everybody has property like Parker's that we can go for each segment. This particular one takes place also in the woods, where rituals need to take place. Ohio actually has a lot of really nice state parks, and a number of films have been shot there. I just recently saw the remake of Wrong Turn, which was shot mostly in the Hocking Hills area, which has some great hiking. So I started to get familiar with Hocking Hills, but the way that we researched this particular segment was a lot of VR or Verbo. I always called it VRBO. Does anybody else call it VRBO? I don't know anybody who calls it Verbo, as they say in the commercials. So a lot of Verbo, a lot of Airbnb, and I feel like Parker and I share the same aesthetic. So what we did, I think one evening, the first time back in April when I went out to visit Parker, is we just both sat with our laptops and created like a love list of, you can do that on Verbo and Airbnb, like places that you like, flag them. So I was just flipping through, and we were both looking just for a specific look. Something that looks somewhat witchy, something that looks as though potentially like not a very masculine cabin, because and for reasons that the story will explain. But like a lot of cabins in the area just kind of are like super like, you know, dead animal heads, browns, you know, like just not very attractive. And the exterior needed to look good. The interior, when you're location scouting, not usually as important for a larger film because you can kind of redecorate if you have a production designer and budget to do those types of things. But for a small budget film or moderately low budget film like ours or smaller, you're looking for a location that has both the exterior and interiors because it saves you on set dressing, to be honest. So the closer you can get on the interiors, the less work you have for yourself later. And we looked at, I mean, I don't know, a couple hundred cabins. And again, it was pretty quick work going through just narrowing down the list of favorites. And then when I had my list, I'd send them to Parker. Parker would flip through, narrow down further. We'd, look even closer. And then we really came down, I think, to 2. And we had 2 on our list that we really liked. And then it came to just reaching out to the places because you can't, I would say probably can't is the right word. You can't just book it and then film a movie there. You need to have a location agreement. And that kind of outlines that you will be using their location in a movie and it releases the rights to it. And you kind of set up all the terms and conditions of the filming that will take place there. And you also have to book it. But when you're filming there, you're using something in perpetuity. So you have to get their permission that you can do that. So it's important to form a relationship with the individual. So by this stage, it was still early on, like April-ish. I was still crafting like how to describe what we were doing because you also don't know who you're going to run into out in, rural areas as far as acceptance of the type of topic that our film Hauntology takes on. So that was important to make sure that there was some compatibility there. So I reached out to both places and or actually Parker reached out to one, I reached out to one. And this kind of goes back to a kind of a running joke. Nobody reached back out to Parker, and my person reached back out to me. We set up time, and I really liked Parker's pick, or the one that Parker was chasing. And I was having a lot of success with people reaching back out to me. So then I kind of just started to become in charge of email for whatever reason. It wasn't Parker was saying anything different than me, but ride the good luck streak wherever it's coming from. So I reached out to the place that we ended up going with and had a response. Like not a ton of enthusiasm, but they were willing to meet with us. And when I think it was May, when I went back out in May, we set up the meeting. We were going to meet with them first. And then the one that I initially chased down the next day and drove out to their property and just blown away. Number one, the gentleman is the owner, proprietor is from Columbus, actually went to the same school as Parker. So a lot of connective tissue there, but just amazing properties, and purchased it back in 2019 and then has grown it since and just really offers a lot of options for us as far as where we could shoot and where folks could stay. Like the crew has like a huge lodge that has its own theater and basketball court. Not that anybody's going to be playing basketball, but I definitely would love a 5-on-5 matchup crew. So that I hope will happen at some point. We might even, I'm really into rap parties. I probably, to Parker's chagrin, like I mentioned rap parties pretty much any opportunity I get. I'm already thinking about the completion of a segment and relaxing and having a good time, forgetting all the work that kind of goes into it in the 12-hour days plus that will likely go into it. But the property was perfect. And then we met the people and the people were perfect. We met the proprietor as well as the manager, and they were just awesome people. Really fun to connect with them, connected with them both on the topics of the film and just as he has a family as well too. And I picked up some candy for the girls, and then Parker ended up going back with his family back out to the property to ultimately pick the location where we would be filming. We just put down the deposit on it as well too. So yeah, all good things. We liked it so much, in fact, that we ended up not wanting, and this, I don't recommend this. We ended up passing on the second place without even seeing it. But it just, sometimes you have a good feeling and you want to go with it. And that's what we ultimately did with location number 2. And now actually I'm going to pause and mention our Kickstarter, do a little bit of shameless self-promotion, because our Kickstarter is now, as I look at it right at this moment, has 16 days left. So we're almost at the halfway point of our 30 days. For those who've been following along, we have crushed our goal. In the first day, we became the number 1 LGBT horror film of all time on Kickstarter, just in the first day. And the fourth day, we fully funded our initial goal of 20,000. Now we're talking stretch goals. All right. And this is where the fun stuff, like I was saying, cool visuals at Parker's property, we're going for that with our stretch goal. 30,000 stretch goal actually just gets us additional production support, which we desperately need. And then 40,000 will get us drones or, additional equipment to do cool shots. Like, I really want a jib, especially for our 4th location. A drone would work as well too, but there's some extra fluidity to a jib that I really like. Anyway, I can dream. And then I think if we get like something like 60,000 ish, maybe it's more 80,000. I can't remember. We become the biggest LGBT film project of all time. Again, those are just titles. Doesn't mean anything. The movie's happening no matter what. But this craziness of hitting the goals as we have would not be without many of your support. Like, it's been so cool going on here and seeing names from Alternate Ending on this list too. It means a lot to see you all supporting. So thank you so much. As promised, as one of the rewards for backing, and I may have to break this up into sections. I'll probably do like a page an episode because I don't want to take up too much of everybody's precious time, but we'll get through the list eventually. So I'll start with, in order of donation, we had Saint John Carp, John Bell, Rachel, Catherine Clark, Paul Gavlik, Merrick Jarasinski, that's my dad, Rob Jarasinski, that's me. Hey, I got to have some skin in the game. Kyle Fox, Jeannie Schmitz, Schmiddix, Elizabeth Jarasinski, that's my mom. Apparently Kickstarter also just like kicks in $1 or something because, Backer Kit does. The Creative Fund by Backer Kit did $1. Sam Scatia, Kay Fredericks, Alexis Reiner, Mandy Lowell, Ryan Rinaldi, Joseph Schlegel, Aircraft, Bogdan Ulatovsky, Ryan Sater, Robert Prudhomme, Jason Stewart, Kelly Roach, Artemis Sear, Peggy Smith, Bob McCulley, Gene Cooper Turjek, Carrie Jarasinski. Hey, Carrie, thank you for the lovely donation. Thanks, everybody. Irena, Linda Buell, Kent, Ivona, Peter Scheisek, Christopher Trengove, Sabine Gerskowitz, Ramon Gurley, Jean Lamphere, Kristen Buell, Suzanne Buckley, The Servant, Ivona Ulatovsky, Heather Roche, and Andrew Milne. Thank you all so much for donating. I've got 2 more pages to go through, but I will save the rest of those for some future episodes, just so we have something to talk about. Okay, so we covered that particular location. That one fell into place pretty quickly, but not as fast as our third segment. Yes, my math is correct. Our third segment, half of the locations fell into place and half did not. Right away until recently. The first one was, we were looking very specifically for a place that 2 wealthy individuals who own an art gallery, like, where would they live? Parker had something very specific in mind. And I think Parker actually came across this place, like right away. And this was just looking at, this was an Airbnb. We knew it was going to be an Airbnb because Verbo tends to be more like lodgy and cabins and stuff, like less city properties or urban properties. So Airbnb, Ohio, looking in all the major cities, looking for specific kind of looks less exterior, more interior, because again, this is more about saving money so we don't have to dress the set. And we came across this, Parker did, I should say, amazing place. Just staged so perfectly with a lot of history, probably one of the more famous historic homes in all of Ohio, I gotta say. A lot of rich history that we'll get into later when we can, but perfectly suited for us. And again, Airbnb doesn't, we could just go book the place anytime we want, as long as there's availability, but that's not how you make a movie. You got to get buy-in from the owner. So use the Airbnb chat to get a hold of our contact. And funny enough, that first trip in April, the contact was available. So we set up a meetup time. They were kind enough to walk us through the property, and it was stunning, just stunning. I want to say built in the late 1800s. Parker does a better job describing architecture than me, but inside it's just like hotel chic. I don't know how to describe it. I'm going to describe it wrong. It's just beautiful. It's appointed so perfectly and so in a very modern way, very slick, very much with the characters of the story. If they could live anywhere, that is where they would live. Very well suited to them, and particularly suited for scenes that will take place in the film as well too. And we were trying to build rapport with the person. Again, great person. His wife actually did the decorating, and just really easygoing. Like, again, you don't know until you ask. So yeah, things worked out well. I've stayed in touch with them as well. Looking forward to officially booking once we have specific dates locked down, and we'll also get them a location agreement. But that one was pretty straightforward. The second part of that location, or of that segment, requires an art gallery. And that we had, I think I mentioned early on that we met, I met this Uber driver my first day in April, who happened to own an art gallery. And that one's a very nice art gallery. It's A3 Gallery. Definitely recommend checking them out. But it was a bit of a smaller space and didn't have like exactly the look that Parker was going for. But absolutely could be usable in Columbus. So no knock on 83 Gallery whatsoever. Like, definitely a great property, and plugging them because I really love everything they do. We did end up getting in touch with the Film Columbus Commission, and through that relationship, they don't just support artists of film, they support all art. And we're offered kind of like, hey, we're connected to everybody. You just let us know which art gallery you're interested in, and we can help you out. And they gave us like a list. And this last time that I was out happened to be during Art Fest. So we went out and celebrated all the wonderful artists out there, purchased some art as well too, but scouted out a Columbus art gallery. It was the second one on the list that we received. And it has a name that is, I'm not going to give it away here because I want everybody to be surprised when they see it, but the name of the gallery is perfectly suited for our film. And it's beautiful on the inside, very spacious. It's a non-for-profit supporting local artists, giving them an opportunity to display in the gallery. So that's cool. They weren't open when we popped in the first time. So we came back a second day, and we were just going to do kind of like a walkthrough, but I can't help myself. I'm a very talkative person, especially when I'm uncomfortable. So I just like bringing up conversation, and had a chance to chat with the person there, and it turned out that they were the head of the board at this particular gallery, and just a lovely person. And we were able to connect and let them know like how we came across them and what our story was about, and that we were filmmakers, and just, it was like no big deal. It's like, okay, yeah, sounds good. It's like, okay, well, how does this work? Well, they need to go to the board, but they're part of the board. So, just send them an NDA and send them all the information. And then, yeah, I'm sure we'll work something out. And yeah, that one's looking very promising, and again, perfectly suited. Why we chose that one over some of the other ones, there were many other really nice galleries. This particular one was in a place that backs up to a park, and as such does not have a lot of through traffic. And some of the other places, while very lovely, were in places of high traffic, and we would get a lot of gawkers. We would get a lot of potentially car noise. So this one suited us best across all aspects. So very exciting. Moving on to our fourth and final segment before kind of the through line, which will kind of take place just all throughout, no specific locations in mind. This fourth one, I have to give credit, and I think I've mentioned her name before, is unit production manager extraordinaire Chenny Chen, who's opened so many doors for us, and we have to thank for pointing this particular place out. This is the finale, right? You know, it's the last part of the movie, has to really sing, and not just the talent and the story, but the location too. So we wanted something really extraordinary. And we're looking for a Victorian period home. And yeah, this is a place that was referred to us. It's a privately owned place, which can be challenging because not set up necessarily for folks to be coming in. And it, being an 18th or 19th century home, there's reluctance to want to open up doors to unknown filmmakers. And this is a place that has been courted numerous times by larger productions, and hadn't worked out for one reason or another. And the owners are just the loveliest. I keep saying this, everybody's lovely, but like genuinely everybody is super nice, but these folks are so nice. Had to track down their information through just Google stalking, and the city that this place resides also was extremely helpful with providing potential contact information. The city is very excited to be hosting us, so that's pretty cool. And this conversation kind of was drawn out over a longer period of time, just because of it's a private residence, like the terms needed to be very clear. And again, like you needed to get comfortable with us as individuals that we're not going to exploit your place, and that we'll take good care of it. And Parker and the homeowner really hit it off too, like both cut from the same cloth, like same interests in film and architecture. I mean, and you have to, like, if you've purchased a place like this, it's a love letter, right? You love it, a passion project. So it's something that they've been restoring for, almost a decade. And it's going to look just incredible on camera. And it's one of those things where I think when people see it, this is the kind of thing that it's going to make people take a step back and wonder, like, wait a second, like, wait, what was your budget? Wait, this place doesn't exist in the real world in Ohio. But it does. It's a place in Ohio. I assure you, I've been there. And yeah, we're really excited to showcase it. I know it's a bit of a kind of overused phrase that a location can be a character. This is a character. When the creative team was talking about like negotiating and things like that, this one was just as important as some of our top cast to get this. And, we're very excited and very honored to be able to put it on film and to pay respects to it in a way that it deserves. And Parker is just the right person to be able to do that with. I know Parker's going to take great care in making sure that every single frame that this particular location is shot will be perfect. And this is one where that, as I was kind of saying at the start of the show or middle of the show with Kickstarter, is where things like the extra equipment could just put it over the top, like, and just really showcase every nook and cranny from the exteriors. It's just tremendous exteriors and establishing shots. So, yeah, that one was found just through word of mouth. We had looked at other locations that are also, prominent and very nice, but this one always had a place in Parker's heart. There are times I was willing to compromise, which is weird because I'm usually the one who's going for the big thing. But I know Parker had their heart set on this place, and so it's really cool that knock on wood, it's worked out. We still have to get we've agreed in principle on all the terms and everything. Just getting the location agreement out once we have dates, or some like rough dates, more or less. So yeah, I'm so excited to have it, and it's going to be the cherry on top of a great movie. It's not going to make the movie, but it makes the movie better, for sure. And that takes care of our kind of principal locations. There certainly will be a lot of driving because it's a road trip horror film after all. The two main characters travel to all of the, or travel close to all of these places, or within spitting distance of some. So I'll probably talk a little bit about how the travel will be filmed, but yeah, more or less like those are the primary locations. And hopefully we'll be able to maybe cover casting next week. I don't know. Don't plan on it and be surprised if it happens. If not, certainly 2 weeks from now, we better have some casting news because we're really closing in on that late August shoot. And for a number of reasons, we need to know the cast. So local casting going extremely well. Those names are pretty locked down. It's the back and forth that we're having with named folks and non-local folks that it just takes a little bit more time. There's extra layers of defense that you need to get through than a local casting situation. So thanks again for listening. I did a good job, I think, keeping it to 30 minutes this time, and really looking forward to continuing on this journey and keeping you all informed on how it's going. Catch you next time.
Oh yeah, it's amateur hour.